Just 3 years after Australians celebrated Brisbane being awarded the 2032 Olympics, the Games are now under threat as the Queensland government does a backflip on promises to upgrade infrastructure, leaving Australian athletes furious.
The Queensland government sought advice and considered cancelling the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games.
Brisbane's had more years than any other host city by the IOC to prepare, and it's a shame that things have come to this point.
Now, the Premier's office denies they ever considered cancelling the Games, insisting that they were always committed to completing them.
But I am sick to the back teeth, just the way that so many different people are ballsing this up for our great city.
Australian Olympians are speaking out today, fed up with the indecision and backtracking around venues for the 2032 Games.
I do think that some firm decisions need to be made soon so we can start cracking on.
Get it done, guys. Come on. We do review after review after review. We've wasted now 3 years. We can't afford to waste any more time.
This is the Games that I feel have been the most embarrassing. I think it does have the opportunity to be one of the best games, but at the moment, it's not looking like it.
This is a case of politics getting in the way of progress. We thought that we had, nearly a 4-year head start to prepare and get ready for these games, and it's just been squandered time and time again.
This is becoming very messy and there is a lot of finger pointing going on at the moment. Mark Taylor, Queenslanders, they live and breathe sport. I'm one of them, but how can the state be taken seriously with the current infrastructure?
Well, it's not just a Queensland thing. I think it's a national thing at the moment, isn't it? I'm interested. I don't know all the details around these bids and what have you, but obviously more rigour needs to go into the bidding process, I think 3 years ago, first and foremost. But, yeah, it is a bit embarrassing. We've had the Victorian government pull out of the Commonwealth Games in 2026 and now this. And I hope this is certainly not going to be a cancellation, but it's no doubt from a sport-loving nation who we are, this is not a great look. That here we are, we've got the Games in 2032, and yet somehow we're not sure where we're going to have it, what stadiums we're going to do it at. From a very biased point of view, I was hoping they'd do the Gabba up, because I'd love to see the Gabba become a bit more like Perth Stadium and this great venue for, yes, Olympic Games and what have you, but also for cricket. That's a very selfish viewpoint. But at the moment, as the athletes just said there, 3 years into this, nothing seems to have been done, bar reviews, discussions, where money may or may not be spent, and no progress. And that's not a good look for Australia.
It will cost $1 billion if they do back out of it. That is what they will have to cough up. Matt, you are a Queenslander. You train at QSAC, which could be the beneficiary of these upgrades. How do you feel about it?
Look, I think for me personally, I'm very torn. Like, there's me as the Brisbane citizen, and then there's me as the athlete and a person who spends every day at QSAC. As a citizen, I feel that Brisbane deserves more. I think we need a plan that really actually, looks into the future, that can provide, more competitions like, AFL Grand Final, all the cricket, as well as even providing stuff for entertainers and, just building the city up and not having to bunt for the fences. You look at Sydney, we got it right. We picked a plan, we committed, and we got it done. And I understand, the Olympic Committee have changed their view on how to present an Olympics and being able to renovate. But then the athlete me is, track and field always misses out. We're one of the, we're the main show when it comes to the athletics, and I know that's biased being an athlete, but at the same time, you look at it and we've always missed out other than Sydney. Gold Coast, we ripped up our track. Also 2006 Melbourne Com Games, they ripped up the track. And, and you're coming off the back of Melbourne pulling out. Like, it's just, I think athletics needs to actually finally benefit from this, and this is something that we may actually have a good legacy program for and provide, something where athletes can actually come and compete post-games and go, this is where Matt threw, this is where Shelley ran, this is where all of our athletes competed, and create a stronger legacy for that. But not to drag on, I do want to say one more thing about is that, being from the Darling Downs and growing up in Alla and living a lot in Toowoomba, this whole review's also taken 80 million away from Toowoomba and, redevelopment and structure there. And I think that's also a massive loss. I think that's getting missed in the papers, is that, this is affecting Brisbane, but it's also affecting the regions as well.
It'll have a huge impact on people in regional areas. Chloe, what's the solution here?
I think if we look to the future, there's going to be continued concerns around the economic impact, potential debt, sustainability of it. Could we look at something like what they did with the FIFA Women's World Cup, sharing it between host cities or host nations? We saw Australia and New Zealand doing an incredible job. I know, Tubby, with the cricket, it's been done before. Is it something in the future we could look to have it in a region so that there's a shared cost and a shared responsibility around the infrastructure? Or do you look at it as rotating host nations? Do you have 4 cities that host the Olympics and it rotates, and the Paralympics, and it rotates throughout that time, and they have their infrastructure set up and it just gets recycled in a way?
That seems to go back to the point I was trying to make earlier on about this rigour around the hosting of it. Everyone obviously wants the glow of, hey, we've got the Olympics, look what we've got for our city. And then comes this, or how much it's going to cost. I even reading during the week that Malaysia are now pulled out of the 2026 Commonwealth Games bid because of costs. Obviously, these games, no matter what they are, they're extremely expensive. We need to have more rigour around them. And if it means that, yes, Australia or Eastern Australia and New Zealand host the games rather than just Sydney, Brisbane or Melbourne, that might be a better way forward. At least there you're sharing a cost and you end up with a more global game, I suppose.
Well, there's still plenty more to play out when it comes to this story.